Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Today is an exciting day. Why? Because we are about to look at our third source for finding information in the form of quotes to help us in our essay when we answer the question, how does fear cause people to act stupidly or do dumb things? Or just how does fear affect people negatively? Now, previous to this, we've read two short stories. We've read The Pit and the Pendulum, and we took a couple of quotes about fear making the person act negatively. Mostly, it's not really doing dumb things. He actually was pretty smart in that story, kept himself alive up until the point where he was saved. But fear definitely negatively affects him, makes him sweat, makes him pass out, do all sorts of crazy things. Then we took a bunch of quotes from that, which we will be able to use to show in our essay. Hey, look, fear makes people do all sorts of things that they don't want to do. Consider the following quote from Pit and the Pendulum. Then we also read House Taken Over, which also showed us a couple of examples of fear causing people to do different things, and in that case, do dumb things. One, lock over half of their house, ignore the fact that there's haunted things going on the other side, not wondering, not checking, leaving all their belongings in the house at the end, throwing the keys into the gutter, and just abandoning their house. That's pretty crazy and dumb. So we have an example of that as well. People doing dumb things from that story. So I could say, fear makes people do dumb things. Consider the following quote from House Taken Over. Then give the quote and then say, this quote clearly shows that the characters did something really stupid. So we've used short stories. Now it's time to use something even more important, and that's scientific research. This article that we're reading right now, it's called Why Do Some Brains Enjoy Fear, is an actual scientific article which is going to give scientific data which shows realistically how fear causes people to do dumb things or affects them negatively. So you can say fear causes people to act negatively, and this is scientifically proven. Consider the following quote from the article, Why Do Some Brains Enjoy Fear? You give the quote, and then you show, this quote clearly shows that fear is something that happens to us all. You'll see. First, let's read this. So we're going to read through this article. Should take about 10 or 15 minutes. You're going to come up with 4 notes about fear, about how fear affects people or affects the brain. And you're going to take annotated notes on that. In fact, let me take a look. I'm going to show you right now. We will do right here. And there it is. This is your assignment to do tonight or today. Why do some brains enjoy fear? Annotations. You're going to give me 4 quotes. And you're going to annotate each quote. So you're going to say, consider the following quote, give the quote, and over there, this quote clearly shows how fear, blah, 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 blah. We're going to do that. Now, what I will say today is I will not type in those quotes today like I did for Pit and the Pendulum and I did for House Taken Over. Why? Because it made the assignment way too long. I'm going to point out those quotes. I'm going to show you the quotes on mine, and I'm going to show you how I would annotate them, but I won't waste the time of actually typing them in. Your job will be to pause it when we get to one of those quotes, fill in that information, and fill in your annotation. Clearly and always, if you have any problems, you can ask me, email me, and I'll talk to you about it. But I believe that everybody should be able to do this. So let's stop presenting this. Let's go back to seeing me. As you can see, here's the essay or the article. I have done it just like I always did. I underline or highlight my quotes. I annotate them over to the side. You'll see I do that for each and every page. So let's read this out loud and let's see if we can get some good information. I'm going to tell you now, there's a good 3 or 4 quotes scientifically explaining what fear does to people, which is going to be a great thing to add into your essay. You might even start off that paragraph by saying, not only is this seen in literature, but scientists have been researching fear for years and have come up with their own findings. Bam, consider the following quote from Why Do Some Brains Enjoy Fear? Bam, this quote clearly shows you've got this. So let's go. Why do some brains enjoy fear? As human beings, we are equipped with a variety of different survival mechanisms. One system detects danger. If we could not recognize dangerous situations, we would not be able to avoid them. For that reason, our brains are hardwired to feel fear when we encounter a threat. Our fear response releases fight or flight chemicals into our bloodstream, and these help make us stronger, quicker, and more alert. In other words, fear makes us ready to fight or flee. Heck, I could use a quote from this background. This one right here is pretty good. For that reason, our brains are hardwired to feel fear when we encounter a threat. That's a great quote right there, which shows, just say that. Consider the following quote. Our brains are hardwired to feel fear when we encounter a threat. This quote clearly shows that feeling fear is a natural reaction that all people fear. That quote tells us that. Let's continue. This time of year, thrill seekers can enjoy horror movies, haunted houses, and prices so low it's scary. But if fear is a natural survival response to a threat or danger, why would we seek out that feeling? Dr. Margie Kerr is the staff sociologist at Scare House, a haunted house in Pittsburgh that takes all year to plan. She also teaches at Robert Morris University and Chatham University and is the only person I've ever heard referred to as a scare specialist. Dr. Kerr is an expert in the field of fear. I spoke with her about what fear is and why some of us enjoy it so much. Okay, why do some people like the feeling of being scared, why others don't? Not everyone enjoys being afraid, and I don't think it's a stretch to say that no one wants to experience a truly life-threatening situation. But there are those of us, well, a lot of us, who really enjoy the experience. First, the natural high from the fight or flight response can feel great. There is strong evidence that this isn't just about personal choice, but our brain chemistry. New research from David Zold shows that people differ in their chemical response to thrilling situations. All right, I have this next sentence that's highlighted. After I read it, you might want to pause it and annotate it. Let's see. One of the main hormones released during scary and thrilling activities is dopamine. And it turns out some individuals may get more of a kick from this dopamine response than others do. My note for that, and that's a great quote, one of the main hormones released during scary and thrilling activities is dopamine. And it turns out some individuals may get more of a kick from this dopamine response than others do. So what does my note for this quote say? I would say that this quote clearly shows that it's not a choice. That fear is a part of our chemical makeup. It is a natural reaction and everybody feels it, and you cannot stop yourself from feeling it. That's a good note. Let's continue. Here's another one that I have highlighted, the next sentence. Basically, some people's brains lack what Zoll describes as brakes on the dopamine release and reuptake in the brain. This means some people are going to really enjoy thrilling, scary, and risky situations, while others, not so much. I know that's the case. I get scared very easily. My wife doesn't get scared very easily at all. I mean, look, she married me. Clearly she doesn't. But that's a different story all around. So another quote, consider the following quote. Basically, some people's brains lack what Zoll describes as brakes on the dopamine release and reuptake in the brain. This means some people are going to really enjoy thrilling, scary, and risky situations, while others not so much. So what would my note be for this, my annotation? This quote clearly shows that fear affects everybody, but it does affect people differently. So not everybody is going to have the same response. Some people take flight, while some people stand and fight. So again, natural evidence, real evidence, scientific evidence from a scientist explaining to us what fear does. That's another great note. Let's continue. Give me 1 second to make sure I know where I am. Cool, let's continue. Lots of people also enjoy scary situations because it leaves them with a sense of confidence after it's over. Think about the last time you made it through a scary movie or through a haunted house. You might have thought, yes, I did it. I made it all the way through. So it can be a real self-esteem boost. But again, self-scaring isn't for everyone. And there are lots of psychological and personal reasons someone may not enjoy scary situations. I have this next set of sentences quoted. Please take a listen and note, what did I choose? And of course, you don't have to choose the quotes that I choose. But if you're looking for quotes, here's a great one. I've talked to more than a handful of people who will never set foot in a haunted house because they went to a haunted house at a young age and were traumatized. Good quote. So consider the following quote. I've talked to more than a handful of people who will never set foot in a haunted house because they went to a haunted house at a young age and were traumatized. So what does this tell us? This quote clearly shows that fear not only affects people when they're young, but that fear stays with them for the rest of their lives and continues to affect them and affect their choices. That's pretty serious stuff. Let's continue. I always recommend parents thoroughly check out the content and rating of a haunted attraction before bringing a child. I have this next and last sentence of this paragraph highlighted. I think this is a great quote. Listen, consider the following quote. The chemicals that are released during fight or flight can work like a glue to build strong memories, flashbulb memories of scary experiences. And if you're too young to know that monsters are fake, it can be quite traumatic and something you'll never forget in a bad way. Again, let's read that quote again. This is a good one. The chemicals that are released during fight or flight can work like a glue to build strong memories, also known as flashbulb memories. of scary experiences. And if you're too young to know that monsters are fake, it can be quite traumatic and something you'll never forget, but in a bad way. So how do I annotate this incredibly cool quote? Listen. I'm sorry. This quote clearly shows that people do dumb things when they're afraid because they were traumatized when they're young and they cannot forget it. I'll give you an example from my life. When I was young, my brother used to always hang out, not a very nice guy, in my dark room before I was going to bed. Not always, but sometimes he would hide under my bed, or sometimes he would hide in my closet, and he would wait until I would fall almost asleep. I was 3, 4, 5 years old. Then he would creep out and he would grab me, or he would knock something over and make noise. And eventually I got to be terrified of my dark room. Even now when I'm 46, I will not go to sleep unless my closet is closed, the bathroom door is closed. I check under my bed. I check all the different corners. I just look, because I'm not that there's a monster, but there's something inside me which will not let me get comfortable until I know that these things are empty. Not that my brother's not there, because he's not there. I know that. I don't hang out with him because he's not a very nice guy. But that there's nothing there that can get me. Now, I'm 46, and I know this is crazy, but I can't stop myself from these feelings. Why? I now know. Because I was traumatized when I was young, and flashbulb memories were formed, and they stay with me forever. So think about this. Fear sticks with a person for their life, especially when they're young. That's how much it affects us, and that's how it negatively affects us. Really great quotes. We will do one more paragraph, and then we'll stop for today and finish this article up tomorrow. Let's go. What happens in our brains when we're scared? Is it different when we're scared in a fun way versus being actually afraid? To really enjoy a scary situation, we have to know we're in a safe environment. It's all about triggering the amazing fight or flight response to experience the flood of adrenaline, endorphins, and dopamine, but in a completely safe space. Haunted houses are great at this. They deliver a startle scare by triggering one of our sensors with different sounds, air blasts, and even smells. These sensors are directly tied to our fear response and activate the physical reaction, but our brain has time to process the fact that these are not real threats. So when we go to a haunted house and they have all this crazy, scary stuff, we don't really freak out that much because we know it's fake. Let's continue. Our brain is lightning fast at processing threat. I've seen the process thousands of times from behind the walls in a scare house. Someone screams and jumps and then immediately starts laughing and smiling. It's amazing to observe. I'm really interested to see where our boundaries are in terms of when and how we really know or feel we're safe. Okay, let's stop for today. Let's go back and take a look at what we were presenting, right? Let's go back to our assignment. So let me open it up real quick. And here it is right here. So you go back for today, if you haven't done this already, go back into our first 6 paragraphs that we read, find 4 quotes that talk about fear, and write those quotes in. Consider the following quote. Here's a good one. I'm just going to go with the last one. The chemicals that are released during fight or flight can work like a glue to build strong memories of scary experiences. And if you're too young to know the monsters are fake, it can be quite traumatic and something you'll never forget in a bad way. So that's the quote. Now also make sure I'm citing it correctly. In this case, I can use the page number. So after my quotation marks, I would then put the parentheses. Then I would put page, just the number 92, close my parentheses and put the period. Then it's time for my annotation. And I would say this quote clearly shows that kids are seriously affected by scary situations and that trauma stays with them through life and affects them as they get older. In other words, it makes them do dumb or unreasonable things even though they know what they're dealing with isn't real because of the traumatic experience that happened when they were young. Great quote. So I would definitely have that one down. Now make sure you have 4 quotes from today and 4 notes. Each quote should start with consider the following quote, which I've already put in for you. And each note, each annotation should start with this quote clearly shows. Very, very fantastic job, everybody. Remember, you only need 4 for today. Great job. We will pick it up from paragraph number 6 tomorrow, and then we will finish the rest of this essay. You'll get a couple more quotes, and we'll be good to go. Great job, everybody. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow.